Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. For today's video is all about mental health to be discussed by Dr. Kimberly Cardler. Stay tuned guys.
Right, I'm going to come around and ask someone. Okay. What's your name?
Handle like stress around you or just struggles that usually make people maybe problematic, but being able to handle it well. I think that's good mental.
Nice. That's a very, very good answer. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, good mental health, because generally, yes, being resilient, right? Being able to handle life's pressures. And I loved your definition of not wanting to say mean things about people. Because actually, not from a clinical standpoint, but usually the people who are mean to others, right, or this aggressive behavior, typically we treat others and we see the world through the lens that we see ourselves. And so if you're in a good place with you, the chance that you're going to be mean to other people or act in a way that is very aggressive or like surprising, much lower. And so I love those definitions and a lack of depression. But I think depression is also, in the world that we live in now, where there's so much information on Instagram and social media, and that's part of what I'll be talking about today, sometimes it can be hard to discern what is poor mental health and what is an appropriate reaction to the situation that you're in, right? Because if, like, for example, if the house is burning down, you're like, no, I'm good, I'm chilling, right? Like, that's not an appropriate reaction to the situation, right? Like, there needs to be a certain level of stress. Or if someone's really unkind to you, and if someone treats you badly, and it's like, I'm okay, it's like, oh, how do you tell the difference between having low self-worth, right, and knowing that actually I don't deserve to be treated that way, right, versus having good mental health. But anyway, we'll get into that, and thank you for audience participation to get us started. Really appreciate our big voices. Okay, so when we start off just thinking of what is mental health. So it's the mental health is our emotional, physiological, and social well-being. So some people say, oh yeah, I've got really, really good mental health, really good. But it's like, but if you don't have like healthy relationships in your life, right, and have a community or even one or two friends who support you, it's like, well, I don't know if you really have good mental health or if you're just like being by yourself and like kind of pushing everyone away, right? And our ability to handle stress, which you beautifully articulated, relate to others and make choices. Mental health isn't simply not being depressed or anxious, but it's a state of well-being where you can realize your own abilities, cope with stress, and work productively. So when someone comes into the clinic to see me and they say, oh, I'm feeling really depressed, I'm feeling really sad, and one of the things that I look at is their level of functioning. How well are they functioning in terms of occupation, right? And let's remember, I know it's hard because we live in Hong Kong and work is life, but work is not the only thing that we live for, right? We've got our work, we have our relationship with ourselves, our social life, our family, our spiritual life, and hobbies and interests, right? So if the only thing, I think, oh, but work's really good. It's like, okay, well, work's really good, but you don't talk to your family often, you don't see your friends, you don't have any hobbies, your mental health can't be that great. Right? Not that it's terrible, but we have to look at a healthy life and healthy mental health is balanced within all of the pillars of our sense of self. Okay, so thank you, Trey. Like my nice AI images here. I keep on scrolling down. Oh, okay. So now another question, just to get to know each other better. So mental health red flags. If I use the term red flags, do you know what that means? If I said like don't date him, he has red flags, but we know what that means? Not so much. Okay. Warning signs. Thank you, much better. So what are your warning signs where you know, oh, okay, my mental health is not in a good place? And sometimes it's easier if we think about comparing it to physical health. Right, so our physical health, like red flag, where we know not in a good place, we've been coughing for 2 weeks. It's like, you should go to the doctor, please don't come to work, right? Or I've got this limp in my leg, but like, oh, I'm fine, just a limp. It's like, no, like you really should go see the doctor. Now, our mental health also has red flags and warning signs. You don't have to tell your neighbor your deepest, darkest secrets. Maybe like think over, hi Percy. Yes, just have a little think to yourself now, like what are your red flags? And I hope by the end of today, you're able to think like, oh, okay, that's actually a red flag for me that I know I need to take better care of myself. I know that let's not wait until my level of functioning is really bad with my friends, really bad with my family, really bad at work. Like, let's think of preventative practices. But don't worry, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, if my handy dandy helper, Mr. Ray, scrolls down a little bit further. Okay, so spotting your mental health red flags. For everyone, it's a little bit different, but these are 3 key things you can look out for. Obviously, mood and emotions. If you're continually feeling sad, irritable, and I think that's an interesting one because we live in Hong Kong, which is a very high-paced, intense city, and I think most people in Hong Kong generally are pretty irritated if you've been on the MTR during rush hour. But that's a much bigger conversation for the state of Hong Kong. The feelings of hopelessness that extend, and when we look at depression, if it's been persistent for the last 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks, there's been this constant feeling of sadness, not feeling hopeful about the future, not feeling hopeful about your life. Pretty clear red flag or warning sign that you need to take better care of yourself, okay? And also, let's say, a question I like to ask people, right, as I said at the beginning, does the size of the reaction match the size of the problem? Right, so sometimes you have like this really big reaction and it's like, oh, okay, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't acted like that. And then we start to feel guilty. Fun fact about human beings as a species, we are the only species that think about our thinking. Does that make sense? We think about this like, what? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? You don't see dogs thinking, why am I like this? Or cats, or even any of our primate cousins. But human beings, like, oh, I shouldn't have acted that way, why am I like this? And then so something happens, you feel bad, and then we add another layer on it because we think about our thinking, and then we feel guilty about everything. And it's, and it just becomes a very negative feedback cycle. So thinking about our moods and emotions and how they interplay. Another really big red flag, right? Social withdrawal. So it's like, all my friends are coming, all my friends are going to meet up together on Sunday. You know, I'm not going to go. Like, it's never a good time. I don't have the energy. I'm so tired. And of course, once or twice, that's being human, or that's having a busy week. But if you notice that there's a pattern, right, and that's what we look for, patterns, a pattern where you just haven't felt interested in seeing your friends. Or let's say you also notice a pattern where you haven't seen a friend for a while. It doesn't mean that they hate you, right? It might mean like that something else is going on with them and that they are happy with their mental health. And the things that used to bring you fun, the things that used to bring you joy, no longer feel that way. The third little red flag to look for, fatigue and energy. So, with mental health, it's really hard to measure because the measurement is your experience, right? And it's your expression and your view of that experience. But the way that lots of us from the outside can see what's happening internally is changes in behavior, right? So noticing the thing about like the social patterns. If there's a friend who socially seems really different, or if you notice like you haven't been sleeping the same amount you used to sleep, either sleeping more, sleeping less, and same with appetite. Right, like all of a sudden you're not eating a lot or you're eating much more, that's usually a sign that our central nervous system, our stress response is being impacted from whatever's happening up here, right? Because without a brain, we can't do very much, right? Like everything starts from here. We're like, oh yes, that was a really yummy cupcake, maybe I'll have a second one, right? Like everything starts as a thought and then the behaviors follow, right? So sometimes it's interesting when I work with people, I'm like, oh, what were you thinking? How are you feeling? sometimes if we're not used to talking about our feelings, if maybe because normally people don't ask us or it's just not part of who we are, an easier way to sometimes start reflecting and thinking about yourself is looking at your behavior. Okay, what was I like the last 2 weeks? Was I eating more than normal? Was I not eating enough? Was I sleeping more, sleeping less? How have my energy levels been? And that can be a good way to start reflecting and checking in with yourself. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Also, another thing I want us to think about is like mental health as a continuum. Okay? So, I know at the beginning I said mental health being good or mental health being bad. But the same way about like being physically fit. Who here likes to do exercise? Put up your hand.
No.
Well, maybe we need more of you guys doing exercise, but that'd be a good start. Like moving their body, and like exercise could be anything, right? It could be dancing, it could be walking. Someone say Zumba?
Yeah.
Oh, Zumba, yes, what a great. Obviously for me it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's something that stops your thinking and just gets you moving and being present in the moment, right? So anyway, that's a different thing about physical fitness. But the same way where you don't think like, oh, is my physical health like good or bad? It's like there's some people who are really fit. Right? There's some people who wake up in the morning, they go for a run, push-ups and push-ups, right? And then like clean the whole, like do everything, and then like very, very physically fit. And there are other people who maybe 2-3 times a week do some kind of physical fitness. So it's not black and white. There are lots of different shades, and that's the same with our mental health, right? It's not like, oh, I'm mentally healthy now. Yeah, okay, we're good. Or like, oh, things are really bad now. But it's like the same way if you had sniffles, right? You have sniffles, a little cold, very different than having pneumonia, right? So lots of little shades, lots of different stages. So the same as our mental health, and we divide it up into like 3 sections. So obviously at the bottom where we don't want to be, the red zone, where we're noticing the red flags and trying to stay away from this area, struggling. So that means we really can't function. Getting out of bed is really difficult. Speaking on the phone to friends without crying is really difficult, right? And just not being able to get through our daily life as we would like to, struggling. Then there's coping. Coping is, we know what we need to take care of ourselves. We know that we need to be seeing our friends. We know that we need to be eating healthy. We know that we need to be calling our family on a regular basis. And like things are happening and they're good. We're coping. Most of us are within the coping to thriving categories most of the time. You can't be thriving all the time. That would be exhausting, right? We need some chapters of life where we're thriving, some chapters where we're coping, whether that's due to the economy, due to situations in life where traumatic events happen, right? We ebb and flow. And then obviously at the bottom, we have thriving, right? And that's being very, very resilient. So when stressful things come, we're managing them really well, very, very positive relationships, and we feel a deep sense of purpose and meaning in our life. Right? Those are 2 very, very important things, purpose and meaning. Okay. So, actually could you pause there? Joanna, thank you. Okay, so common mental health conditions. Okay, can you guys, I already had the lovely lady at the front say depression, right? So we're familiar with depression. Are there any other mental health diagnoses that, anxiety, yes, super.
Addiction.
Addiction? Yes, who said that? Oh, there you go. Yes, addiction. Another mental health disorder, yeah. Very, very interesting. Talk about that later if you'd like. Anything else?
PTSD.
Nice, PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. Super. Nice. Okay, let me scroll down. So, as a okay, well, it'll pop up later, I guess, or not. So, as a clinical psychologist, the most common thing that I see, there we go. So anxiety disorders, So yeah, as you can see, affecting 284 million people. So we've got generalized anxiety, social anxiety, and specific phobias. So specific phobias like scared of heights. Anybody? No? Scared of
Bipolar
heights?
disorder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And scared of just big social events. And anxiety and depression are mood disorders. So that means our emotions are affected. Okay? And these are the most common disorders that I see. Anxiety is an excessive amount of worry, right? And it's not necessarily about the situation, but the worries are really, really bad. But then someone who's really, really anxious, like they're so worried, oh, I can't go to this thing, I can't go to this thing, I don't want to go outside, if I go outside, everything's going to be really terrible. But then actually when they go outside, they can manage it, right? And it's not the thing that they can't manage, it's that being able to take care of the thoughts about the thing, right? And then depression, the leading cause of disability worldwide. So depression is no hope. Everything is terrible and there's no hope. And that obviously can be a very, very energy consuming mental health condition, and in the worst case scenarios leading to death. Bipolar disorder, so this is intense periods of lots of energy, not sleeping, go, 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 like everything's amazing, woohoo! It's like, well, okay, sometimes it's like a little bit much, right? Followed by a crash. And sometimes this crash can happen quite quickly, sometimes it's over like 2-3 weeks, right? That's bipolar disorder. And to be friends with someone with bipolar, it's a little bit confusing, right? Sometimes they're like really enthusiastic, really excited, and other times everything's very, very terrible, and it's very draining to sit with them. And then PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and people who, unfortunately, if they're born into a country where they've been exposed to war, they've been exposed to trafficking. If there's a mental health condition that goes untreated, the longer you stay in any place mentally, the harder it is to get out. So if you've been depressed for several years, it's actually really hard, it's much harder to get out of it, which is part of the reason why I love working with children and young people, because actually we see symptoms and signs of mental health conditions in most people before the ages of 14. And then there are biological factors and there are social factors, and the more your brain does anything, the better it gets at it. Remember the first time you learned to ride a bike? So difficult, right? Then the more you do it, your brain becomes more familiar, and it's like being at the beach and doing lines in the sand. And the more you do the line in the sand, the deeper that gets. So the longer you stay depressed and thinking negative thoughts, doing things that aren't good for you, right? Those lines get deeper and deeper. And so to do something different, challenging for all of us, right? Like the way when you learn like a new skill, learning a new recipe, or learning a new person, right? Change, even when the change is something that is good for us, is always hard to do. Okay, so, and then obviously this can create further repercussions. And what you were saying about addiction, right? Addiction, if someone is in a good place mentally, they're not going to become addicted on drugs, right? Like drugs within themselves are not, obviously they have addictive qualities, but it's the person who is not in a good place, it is the person who is looking not to feel anything, looking to escape, and that's where substance use and alcohol use can become very, very dangerous, right? So that's untreated mental health issues. And obviously our relationships, right, in terms of perhaps like not starting a family, making it difficult to talk to people in your family, and not being able to have the same kind of friends to rely on. A lot of the time with untreated mental health issues, these are people who now exist in isolation, right? Because they've exhausted all of their friendships and people are a little bit tired of them, right? And untreated mental health, and then obviously community impact. Okay, you can continue to scroll down. Oh no, on a global level it costs the world quite a lot of money as well. Continue to scroll. Okay. So something that I wanted to also share today are the difference between sadness and poor mental health. Okay, so sadness is temporary, right? Appropriate emotional reaction to the situation at hand. And it usually involves a specific event. So let's say you don't get the job that you want and you're very sad about it. Appropriate, not depression. A family member passes away. Sadness, not depression. A relationship ends. Sadness, not depression. Right? So grief isn't a mental health issue. Grief is an appropriate emotional reaction to the problem. Mental health concerns. So we're looking for, if you've been sad for more than 2 weeks, finding it hard to get out of bed, changes in sleep, changes in how you're eating, and maybe like physically. What's really interesting, especially within Asian culture, how things show up in the body. Speaking like Chinese culture, because generally Chinese culture isn't as verbally expressive as within Western culture, and you'll see depression as lower back pain. Oh, I've gone to the doctor doesn't understand what's happening, but my lower back's so painful, it's so painful. Typically that can be unaddressed mental health issues, and we hold sadness and depression lower back. Where do you think we hold our anxiety? Where do you think anxiety shows up in our body? Shoulders, that's a good one, that's a good one. Heart? Typically it's actually stomach issues, right? Another interesting thing, like our emotions are physiological experiences, right? And so if it's like butterflies in our tummy, sweaty hands, what's the emotion? Being nervous. What's also very similar to being excited, right? So sometimes we always have the physiological experience that lives there, and then we have the story that we attach to it in our head. And nervous and excited, when you're lining up to go on the roller coaster, it's a balance of both, right? So it's interesting being able to pay attention to that. Disorders, you know what, it never goes my way, nothing ever happens for me, it's their fault, I don't know why they're like this. But the common pattern is the person, right? But everyone else is the problem, right? And we also have a big family of personality disorders, but they're much harder to diagnose. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, yeah, so how do we measure mental health? Let's say after today, you're like, you know what? I think I've decided I want to take care of my mental health. I want to learn more about me and what's happening with the thoughts, the emotions upstairs. So it's our ability to learn and grow from experiences. On a professional level, something that I really notice as a strength and a protective factor is curiosity. The more curious we can be about ourselves, the more curious we are about our relationships with other people, the more resilient it makes us. Because in my experience, curiosity creates a pause button between ourselves and the reaction. Right? So when something happens and you're like, why did she treat me that way? What's going on there? And instead of being like reacting and being like, why were you like this? It's like, okay, like why did that happen? Like how did I contribute to that? What's going on with her? And allowing more questions and reflection allow us to grow from an experience. So next time, perhaps it doesn't impact us on an emotional level in such a difficult way, right? Ability to change and deal with stress, balance with life activities. So no one who works all the time has amazing mental health. Okay, I hope that's another take-home point from today. You can't be working all the time. Our central nervous system, our body, wasn't made to work all the time, right? And trying to create as much balance in our lives as possible. But obviously, a very, very difficult thing to do. Self-confidence and positive self-regard. Women in particular really struggle with this, right? Because it's so hard. A lot of the time when I work with women, they're scared of seeming too confident or too much. I'm like, girl, too much for who, right? But I think there's a bigger societal issue. But in order to be confident is just knowing what you're capable of and knowing that you have your back, right? And you'll be there to take care of yourself. And we develop confidence by challenging ourselves. Working towards something, working towards a goal, doesn't necessarily have to be a big goal, but little steps in the right direction for something that is important and meaningful for us. And the more we practice that skill, the more confident we can become. And of course, meaningful connections with others. Everyone in the room, we're all human, right? When you think about ages and generations and generations and generations ago, how did our ancestors survive? You know what, listen Bob, I'm not interested in being part of the tribe anymore. I'm going over here. I'm gonna live by myself with all the wild animals. I'm just gonna hope for the best. No, right? We're a social species. We've survived. The only reason all of us are here is because of the generations before us that work together in groups. The hard part is, who here lives near their family? I've got a few people with family connections, but in modern society, we've become more and more individualistic. Right? People live in apartment buildings and they don't know their neighbors, right? People sit on the MTR. When was the last time you had a chat with anyone on the MTR? But I actually have to say, as someone who's lived a long time in Hong Kong, generally speaking, Filipinos, you are chatty and you are friendly, right? I think when a Filipino sees another Filipino on the MTR, you guys do talk to each other. Yeah, with pride. This is a protective factor, looking out for one another, and that sense of connection and community. It's the human in you, right? And I think that's something that as a culture deserves to be celebrated. Okay. And then a sense of purpose and meaning, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And what it means to you.
Thank you for watching, guys. Jesus loves you. Bye-bye.